So welcome to the second video in our LinkedIn series around the industry journey. And last time we talked a lot about the different phases of the industrial journey. And if you remember, we got into phases industry 3 and industry 4 and industry 5. And there was a transformation from digitization of isolated environments and then really starting to cross the chasm of interconnecting all these environments. Now, when we do that, it really starts bringing together the IT and OT worlds. That means there's more partnerships, there's more convergence, there's more trust that has to be established between those. So I got to thinking that we really should talk about the different personas that play in the roles and what they care about. So what I thought we'd do today is to really talk about what that means, and just whether you're on the OT side, the IT side, you're a consultant or what have you. It's very important to know what each other cares about. So I got a couple of basic slides here that I'm gonna put up here, and let's talk through those as we go. So if we look at, and you'll see this in further conversations that I have, but I'm going to talk about three pillars of this journey. And first being visibility, the second being dynamic segmentation, and the third being cross-domain visibility. Now, if we look at this, there's three main characteristics or groups of roles that we have. The OT world, which really is concerned about visibility in the assets and knowing what's out there and keeping production running, taking the downtime out of the equation. They are really your industrial operators, the industrial switching. They handle the industrial switching, industrial routing at some points, depending on where the demarcation is. But they want to know where the assets are, what they're doing, and if they're up, down, those type things. So when we go into the IT world, we're starting to teeter into that dynamic segmentation world where they're really concerned about segmenting the network and implementing security best practices, trying to make sure that they have some sort of controls around those environments. And it's not to take it down, but it is to better build on that visibility. Now, when we do that, we can take visibility that we gained, that the OT team really likes, integrate that into our IT stack, and we can start providing the notion of a zero trust network or a dynamic segmentation approach to assets on the shop floor. And finally, there's the CISO. That organization, whether it be governance, whether it be the CISO itself, whether it be security architects, they're really concerned about getting tools that gives them across OT visibility, across enterprise visibility, and how to understand what's going on. And once again, that visibility aspect and the segmentation aspect is going to provide a lot of insight for that CISO level or that SOC level type organization. And what we're trying to really do here is how do we build bridges between the enterprise side, the OT or the line of business, and the security policy and government sides of the business, governance sides of the business. And we want to make sure that we bring this together, that we understand what each other is caring about and trying to accomplish. Now, this was another key point that I thought was worth making, is what does these terms mean when you start talking about different teams? So the OT and IT, they have different requirements. As we said before, OT is predominantly worried about keeping the business running, producing widgets, manufacturing, generating power, whatever industry we may be talking about, where IT is trying to figure out how to apply security policy and control that. And there's often a fear from the OT side that the influx of IT or technology into that will cause downtime and really take away from what they really care about. But let's take a look at some terms here. If you're in an IT organization and you think about security, mentally you're going to gravitate towards cybersecurity. But if I'm in the OT side and I think about security, I'm thinking about safety, worker safety, plant safety, that type of. So it's really good when you get into conversations between these organizations and you mention security. What comes to mind depending on the role that you're in? Now in IT, the IT teams manage data. They care about confidentiality, integrity, availability, segmentation. On the OT side, they manage process and they care the most about throughput and uptime, making sure that the plants and the business is actually generating revenue. Now, in the IT world, typically equipment is more modern, it's more known and more controlled. In the OT side of the business, we're talking about equipment that's often 10 to 20 plus years old. and often managed by third party with very limited or little to no visibility. On the IT side, we often talk about segmented networks, and that's been a cusp of architecture for a long time. On the OT side of the house, they're often flat networks, which brings a lot of fear and anxiety into the security and the IT worlds on how do you actually contain the blast radius of an incident that may occur. IT attacks are well defined typically on the IT side, viruses, worms, DDoS attacks, those type of things. But on the OT side, attacks often look like legitimate business processes inside of control systems. So when we talk about extending IT into OT, we have to be sure that we understand what each other care about. And that's why some of this really breaks down, is there's a lack of understanding on what the other side of the aisle really cares about. So what we want to do as we go through this and we start evolving into the next few videos of the series is how we break this down. How do we make sure that we're bringing the best of both worlds from an IT and security into the uptime and safety monitoring inside that OT world? Now, keep in mind, just to summarize, these roles are very different. They have very different care abouts. But with the advent of migrating from Industry 3 into 4, the line is really blurring about how these teams work. So it's no longer, I can segment my environment, I can segment away from yours, and we can run independently. It's about bringing in total visibility. Because keep in mind that OT world historically has been that black box. And from an IT perspective, we built walls around it. We've put razor wire up, anything that we could do to keep things from getting out and things that are out from getting in. But we didn't have true visibility of what's going on. What we're evolving into now is a true transparent visibility of what's happening in those layers in between. So that's all for now. Look forward to having the next session with this, but I thought this was a really good establishment of the roles and responsibilities as we go forward in these video series. So thanks for watching and tuning in. Hope you have a great day.